I think most people agree that you hear 1600 kilohertz. And let's see what happens if I were to do this. How does I do this? How does I do this? So what happens if all of that is actually happening, but instead of it just being one tone, it's actually dynamic and part of the music that's being played? It wouldn't just sound like a stuffy, like claustrophobic, really irritating sound. It would sound like air. It sound like part of the music. And that's basically what the whole point of it is. And the way that the air works is that the same way that if I were to do this, you hear a different angle of the sound versus if I do this. The same thing applies to if I turn it up all the way to 20 kilohertz. Because when you're listening to music, you're not just listening to polyphony. You're listening to the whole array of music, and like the whole array of music is actually air that is traversing all around you and colliding the molecules and has an effect. And the same way that you can hear like Wi-Fi or even a light bulb, like like eventually the circuitry does actually filter down so that you can hear the buzzing of a light bulb, right? The same thing applies to sound. When you have sound that plays all the way up to like 20 kilohertz, it does actually fill the room. It exists. It's something that is actually as real in the room as 5 hertz, and it's something that is interacting in the air, and it is actually changing the phase and making it so that the sound is fuller and basically immersing you into the sound more. And there's plenty of studies that actually demonstrate this, and I'll try to link them because I used to have them saved on the old Reddit, but since Reddit's fun is dead, all the save files I have are gone, so that's fine them all now. But they don't work on headphones, and that's probably one of the main reasons why people thought that you could only hear from 20 to 20, and because we just kind of like the number 20. We used to think that your brain would seize if you drove faster than 20 miles an hour. 20/20 vision's like considered perfect vision. 20 is just like a number that we just like. Hindsight's 20/20, whatever. And but for sound, it's a whole entire spectrum that goes all the way up to much higher than 20. And recordings like masters go up to like 50. And they do that so that, they could, have a lot of headroom, obviously. So they could downsample. But besides that, when you're filling up a gigantic hall, just think about like all the little spaces and all the little ways that the sound can actually interact with every other sound that's happening, and the way it's hitting all the molecules in the room and affecting the sound and basically reproducing what should have been reproduced if you didn't add the brick wall filter and cut it off at 20 or cut it off at 22 or cut it off at 16 or whatever you cut it off at. You're getting rid of all the dynamics that would have existed, that would have actually been in the recording, that would have brought the room back to life for you. And that's pretty much what the proponents of people who like high def are basically trying to get across. And the studies show that if you have people not even it's not even subjective, where it's like one of those things where I hear the sound so I push the button. They actually had people with literal brainwave scanners, and the test was for immersion, and that was the point. And they would actually add the brick wall filters, and they would show that your alpha and your theta waves would be affected immediately when you actually turn on or turn off the brick wall filter. And these tests went all the way up to 28 to 38 kilohertz, and it really depended on the person and depended on the soundscape, like the room and everything. But what was in common was very similar to Rat Park 1 versus Rat Park 2, that it was actually just something wrong with the way that people studied or did the test. So thanks. Your thoughts?